Hi, this is Sammy Bergman, Skan Rosh Beit Midrash of Beit Midrash Zechron Dov, and rabbinic assistant at Sharei Shemayim, and I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about pots and pans in the Sukkah, the challenge of living with God. The character of the mitzvah of dwelling in the Sukkah is an all-encompassing one. Yosef Karo in the Shulchan Aruch, Simon Taf Reish Lamed Tet, that's 639, the laws of living in the Sukkah, describes it as follows: Ketzad mitzvah yeshiva b'sukkah. How should one fulfill the mitzvah of living in the sukkah? Shia ochel v'shota v'yashin v'tayel v'dor b'sukkah kol shavat hayamim. A person should eat and drink, the Ramah Moshe Islas adds, and sleep and walk and dwell in the sukkah for 7 days, bein bayom bein balayla, whether in the day or during the night. Just as he does in his house or her house the rest of the year. And for the entirety of the 7 days, a person should make their house, their permanent house, a temporary dwelling place, but more permanently live in the sukkah. And therefore he says one should bring their beautiful vessels and their nice sheets and linens into the sukkah. Bringing your cups, your goblets. So we see in this first part of the Shulchan Aruch that the character of living in the sukkah is really, again, one that means that you should do as much as you can in the sukkah, which should extend to almost everything: talking, relaxing, eating, drinking, sleeping. The discussions about learning Torah in the sukkah, certainly, as long as being in that environment won't distract the person. And this is because the mitzvah is to make the sukkah our home. Now, if this was the case, one would think that this should even include more mundane activities, such as washing dishes, or maybe even relieving oneself. However, there are limitations, and they're a bit fuzzy. So even in this first halacha, the Shulchan Aruch continues. However, the vessels one uses, the utensils one uses to eat, after one is done eating with them, should be kept out of the sukkah. You shouldn't leave your dirty dishes in the sukkah. And the reason for this is because it is a type of disrespect. It's not right to leave dirty dishes in the sukkah, as opposed to drinking utensils are more commonly, or less dirty, less of a spectacle, and more respectful to the environment of the sukkah. Similarly, the Chavetz Chaim notes here in the Mishnah Berurah that there is a bit of a discussion about idle talk. That while on the one hand, there's a notion of even doing everything in the sukkah, even just relaxing, but one should refrain from idle talk in the sukkah because it is a holy place. And even though we are living there as we normally would, so you would think I can talk normally, nevertheless, there's an idea that one should only speak in words of Torah or specifically productive conversation in the sukkah, and not leave it to mundane, and certainly not use the sukkah as a place to discuss Lashon Hara or slander or inappropriate topics. Even things like washing dishes, says the Mishnah Berurah, is also not something that's so simple, although he says to wash your cups is okay. But one should not relieve themselves, even if they're used to doing that in their house. Intermarriage relations, however, are allowed in the sukkah because that's seen as a mitzvah as long as one can do it in a private way. So what's the key here? I think there's sort of a tension. And on the one hand, we are supposed to live in the sukkah, as we normally do in our houses. At the same time, we have to note that when we live in the sukkah, we're also living with God. And that's a complex relationship. We want to be close to God. We want to have a connection with God. But we don't live with God as we do with our friend. God is beyond us. God is above us. We have to have reverence and respect and awe of God in the sukkah, and that has to dictate the way that we act. And as we approach Yom Kippur, we get more, after Yom Kippur rather, after we've done tshuva, we're more comfortable with God. We want to live with Him. We want to eat and drink. But we also have a certain level of caution, of awe, of reverence. And that dictates the way that we live. So as we approach Sukkot, let's use this proper balance of connection, of comfort, of love of God, but also keep in mind to have the proper respect, awe, and reverence for being in the presence of the Almighty.